Let me tell you what it feels like to be abandoned by the people who are supposed to love you the most. It's not something you get over easily, but you learn. You learn how to survive, how to become stronger than they ever thought you could be. Hi, I'm Audrey. I'm 33 years old, successful, independent, living in an apartment I bought with my own hard-earned money. I'm living the life I built for myself, the life no one ever thought I could have. Not my parents, not my sister, certainly not anyone who looked down on me for choosing the hard path. But trust me, I didn't get here by luck. I didn't wake up one day with it all handed to me. No, it took years of sacrifice, sweat, blood, and tears. Years of facing the truth that the people who were supposed to care about me couldn't even show up when I needed them most. They refused to pay for my college because they thought I was smart enough to handle it on my own. But when my nephew, their golden child, needed help to pay for MIT, they came crawling back. So I said, no. And 2 weeks later, the cops showed up at my door accusing me of theft. You won't believe how this story ends. But trust me, I'm the one who got the last laugh. And the truth, it set me free. It all started with a phone call. I was at home, exhausted from work. The kind of tired where you feel like your eyes are glued shut and your brain is a foggy mess. My phone buzzed on the desk, and for a moment I thought about ignoring it. But the number on the screen stopped me, an unknown number. I almost didn't pick up, but something told me I should. Audrey. The voice crackled. I froze. I didn't have to look at the name to know who it was. It was my mother. I hadn't heard her voice in over a decade. The last time we spoke, I walked out the door and never looked back. The betrayal was too deep, the wounds too fresh. There was nothing left for me there, but now, here she was, calling me out of nowhere. How did you get this number? I couldn't help the coldness in my voice. I got it from your Aunt Mary. She answered quickly, I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Can you come over? I felt my stomach churn. The memories, the old hurt, they flooded back in an instant. This wasn't just a conversation. This was a summons to step back into a world I'd fought so hard to escape. When? I asked, my voice steady but distant. This weekend. Please, Audrey, it's important. I hesitated. There was a part of me that screamed to hang up and move on with my life. But curiosity won out. Maybe I needed closure. Maybe I needed to finally put an end to this chapter. Fine, I said I'll come over, but don't expect anything more than that. Saturday came faster than I expected. I found myself standing in front of the house I grew up in, staring at the faded paint and the overgrown garden. It looked the same as it always had, but everything inside me was different. The house had become a symbol of everything I was forced to leave behind. The expectations, the judgment, the disappointment. But here I was, back at the place that tried to define me. I stepped inside. The smell of stale air hit me immediately. My father was sitting at the kitchen table, as usual, expressionless and distant. But across from him sat my nephew. My eyes locked with his. He was 18 now, tall, thin, and with the same dark hair as his mother. He looked like a stranger. Where's Sarah? I asked, my voice quiet, guarded. My mother's face went cold. That's part of why we called you here. Of course, Sarah. The golden child, the one who always got everything handed to her. Sarah's been through a lot. My father said, his tone flat. A lot. I spat. Isn't she always going through a lot? My mother quickly cut in. She's divorced. She and her son are living with us now. I could feel the bitterness rising in my throat, but I swallowed it. They wanted something from me. I wasn't going to give in without knowing exactly what. We were planning to use the money from the sale of Sarah's apartment to pay for his college. My mother explained, "He wants to go to MIT just like you did." I listened in silence, unsure how to respond. My mother continued, her voice breaking, eyes filled with worry. "But Sarah took the money and ran off with some man she just met. We haven't been able to reach her. That's why we need your help." Her words hit me like a punch to the stomach. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but the truth hung heavy in the air, impossible to deny. MIT, my dream school, the place I had always hoped to attend but couldn't afford. And now they were asking me to foot the bill for my nephew, the same one who barely knew me. I felt the tension in the room spike, but I didn't hesitate. "I'm not paying for his college. Not when you never helped me when I needed it." The words hung in the air, thick and heavy. My nephew's eyes didn't flinch. He didn't argue. He just stared at me with that same cold detachment that his mother wore so well. The second I said it, the memories came rushing back, uninvited. When I was 14, I was extremely passionate about programming. I spent most of my time participating in national programming competitions, winning many awards. I knew I would choose programming as my career, so I applied to several universities, including the most prestigious one in my field. When the results came in, I had many options. A few schools offered full scholarships, but the one I dreamt of the most only offered me a partial scholarship, covering 70% of the tuition. The remaining amount I didn't have. I thought my parents would help me. After all, parents are always there to support their children, especially when their children have an opportunity and are trying their best. I was 18, sitting at that same kitchen table, telling my parents about my scholarship. Everyone was present, including my parents and my sister, Sarah. She is 7 years older than me and lives with her husband and 2-year-old son. The excitement, the hope that they would finally see me as someone worthy of their support. But they didn't. The response I got was truly shocking. My mother looked at me and said, "Audrey, you're smart enough to take care of yourself." My father nodded and added, "Didn't you participate in all those competitions? If you're so smart, you should find a full scholarship elsewhere." I was stunned. These were my parents, and they were telling me to handle it on my own. But then I remembered something. A few years ago, my grandfather passed away and left money for my education. I asked again. "Grandpa left money for my college tuition, didn't he?" "Mom, I know." My mother's face turned cold. "That money was used to buy Sarah a place to live," she said flatly. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. "That money was mine. Grandpa left that money specifically for my education." My father slammed his hand on the table, his voice angry. "This conversation is over, Audrey." At that moment, Sarah smiled smugly. "You always think you're the smartest one in the family, Audrey. Now you have a chance to prove you can do it without our money." Then everyone laughed. My parents, my sister, even her husband all laughed. They laughed at me, at my dreams, at my situation. Looking back at that moment, everything became clear. I had always been second in this family. Sarah was the one who was pampered. She always got everything she wanted, and I was just the one who had to figure everything out. And at that moment, I made a decision. I would leave home that very night. I called my Aunt Mary, my mom's younger sister, the one person who had always been there for me, and asked if I could stay at her place until I figured out how to solve my college situation. She didn't hesitate. "Of course, Audrey, come stay with me. You don't have to explain." The next morning, I packed my things and left without saying goodbye. I only left a letter saying I would be staying at my aunt's house. My mother's reaction through a text was simply, "Good, that was it." No words of encouragement, no goodbye, just the word. Good. And so, I left. I eventually found a university in a neighboring state that offered me a full scholarship and free accommodation. It wasn't the prestigious school I had hoped for, but at least I didn't have to worry about tuition or housing. I took on part-time jobs to cover my living expenses. My aunt supported me whenever I needed it. She was the only one in the family who truly cared about me. It wasn't easy, but I made it. I worked part-time jobs to survive. My aunt helped me when she could, but I never asked for anything from my parents. They had made it clear that I was on my own, and I was fine with that. After graduating, I returned to my hometown, close to my aunt, and started working for a large software company. I worked remotely, earning money and receiving bonuses for the software I developed. By the time I was 29, I had saved enough to buy this apartment. It was the greatest achievement of my life, not just because I owned a property, but because I had done it on my own without any help from my family. Now, at 33, I am independent and successful. I no longer keep in touch with my family, except for occasional holiday messages. And that's when the phone call came, everything changed. 2 weeks after the tense encounter with my family, I still couldn't forget the feeling of betrayal. Everything seemed to have calmed down. But one day, I received an unexpected call from an unfamiliar number. Hello, this is the police. We have some information regarding you in a case involving stolen money from your family. We need you to cooperate and allow us to conduct a search of your home. The officer's voice over the phone was dry, devoid of any emotion. I froze. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Stolen money. What had my family done now? A wave of worry and confusion washed over me, but I had no choice but to agree. Just minutes later, the police arrived at my door, their faces serious. I stood motionless, unsure of what to do. The questions and chaotic thoughts spun around in my head. Ms. Audrey, we have a search warrant for your house at the request of your family, who have accused you of stealing $5,000 from them. We need to carry out this procedure to clarify the situation, the chief officer said, his tone firm and unyielding. I had no choice but to nod in agreement. The next few moments were a blur as I silently watched the officers rummage through my apartment. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare. The violation of my private space was deeply uncomfortable, but it didn't stop there. After the search concluded with nothing unusual found, one officer suggested checking my car, as there was information that the missing money could be there. I had no other choice but to agree. When I took the officers to my car, everything happened so quickly. They searched every nook and cranny until one officer picked up a brown envelope from under the driver's seat. Inside was $5,000. The money my family had accused me of taking. My body stiffened. I couldn't believe my eyes. How could the money be in my car? I had no knowledge of it. Ms. Audrey, this money belongs to your family, and we have enough reason to believe you took it. The officer said, his voice serious. Before I could gather my thoughts, I was arrested and taken to the police station. It felt like the world was collapsing around me. I knew I was innocent, but everything happening seemed impossible to prove at that moment. I was detained, but all I could think about was how to explain the truth. At the station, I was interrogated. The questions came relentlessly. Why is this money in your car? Do you have any explanation for this? I tried to remain calm, explaining that I hadn't done anything wrong, that I had not taken the money. I didn't take the money from my family. I don't understand why it's in my car. I've been falsely accused. They didn't believe me. I felt hopeless, as if there was no way out. But I didn't give up, trying to recount everything from the beginning, from when I decided to leave my family until now. The fact that my family had accused me made me feel even more hurt and betrayed, but I still insisted that I was innocent. Finally, after hours of interrogation, the police realized there was no direct evidence linking me to the crime. They couldn't continue holding me without sufficient proof, so they decided to release me temporarily to investigate further. They let me go but warned me not to leave the city. As soon as I was out of the station, I unblocked my mother's number and called her. "You're a thief," she screamed. "Now I know how you really make your money, by stealing from others." She hung up without another word. I took a taxi home, my car still held as evidence. As I entered my apartment, a thought struck me. I'd installed a dash cam in my car just a few months ago, one that recorded both inside and outside the vehicle. I quickly logged into the footage online and began scrolling through the past few days. And there it was, clear as day. 3 days ago, someone had gotten into my car and placed something under the back seat. It was my nephew. I watched in disbelief as the footage showed him using some kind of electronic device to disable the alarm, unlock the doors, and shove a bag of money under the back seat before walking away. I didn't waste a second. I called a taxi and grabbed my laptop with the video footage, heading straight back to the police station. "Officers, I have evidence that will clear this up," I said as I arrived. I played the video for them. They watched it twice, their expressions growing more serious with each pass. "Well, that's pretty clear cut," one of them said. "The kid obviously planted the money to frame you. All charges against you are dropped. We'll be talking to your nephew about this." I stood there, a mixture of relief and sadness washing over me. I was free of the charges, but I couldn't help feeling the weight of everything that had happened. The next day, I received another call from the station. They asked me to return. When I walked in, my nephew was sitting in a chair, his head hanging low. Gone was the arrogant look he'd had at my parents' house. Now he just looked like a scared kid. "Tell her what you told us," one of the officers said. My nephew looked up at me, his voice barely above a whisper. "I built a device that can hack car security systems. I used it to get into your car and plant the money." "Why?" I asked, though I already knew. "Because you wouldn't help me go to college. I thought if I got you in trouble, maybe you'd change your mind. Or maybe my grandparents would finally see what kind of person you really are." I shook my head in disbelief. "So, you stole from your own grandparents and tried to frame me for it." He looked down at the floor. "I was going to give it back after you got arrested." He muttered. "That's not how this works." I said, my voice steady but cold. "You've committed multiple crimes." At that moment, the door burst open. My parents rushed in, my mother crying, my father looking like he might collapse. "Please don't press charges." My mother begged, her voice shaking. "He's just a kid. He acted out of emotion. He's 18. I replied flatly. "He's an adult, and clearly smart enough to build electronic devices that can break into cars. He knew exactly what he was doing." My father grabbed my arm, desperation in his eyes. "Audrey, please, he's family. He made a mistake." "A mistake?" I pulled my arm away. "He planned this. He stole from you, lied to the police, and tried to have me arrested. That's not a mistake. That's a crime." My mother fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "Please, Audrey, I'm begging you. Don't ruin his future over this." I looked at them all. My weeping mother, my pleading father, my nephew who couldn't even meet my eyes. I thought about what they had done to me all those years ago. how they had abandoned me when I needed them most. But I also thought about who I wanted to be. Did I want to be like them? Bitter and vindictive, forever trapped in the cycle of pain and betrayal? Or did I want to be better than that? In the end, I knew the answer. I stood tall, knowing that no matter what, I had to take control of my own future. But I wasn't going to forgive what had happened. Not yet, not until I could find peace within myself. I won't press charges, I said, my voice steady but firm. My parents visibly relaxed, but I wasn't done yet. I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. But I need to make one thing absolutely clear. I'm cutting all ties with this family. I don't want to hear from any of you again. If any of you try to contact me, if you show up at my apartment, or involve me in your messes in any way, I will change my mind about pressing charges. Do you understand? My father nodded quickly, but my mother continued to cry, her sobs shaking her frame. I turned to my nephew, whose eyes were cast downward. And you, I said, my voice cold, you stay away from me. I don't know you. I don't want to know you. If you come near me again, I'll call the police. Do you understand? Without waiting for a response, I walked out of the station, my heart heavy but resolute. I took a taxi home, the familiar city streets blurring as I stared out the window. I felt empty, drained, like everything had been sucked out of me. It was over, but I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired, worn down by it all. For the next few weeks, my life remained undisturbed. I didn't hear from my family, and for the first time in a long while, the silence felt peaceful. I went back to my normal routine, working, visiting my aunt, finding small moments of joy in my quiet life. Then, one day, I received a message on social media. It was from Sarah. You're a cruel, heartless bastard. My son could have gone to MIT and made something of himself, but you destroyed his future because you're too selfish to help family. You're an ungrateful piece of shit who thinks she's better than everyone else. I read it twice, processing her venomous words. Then I typed back, my fingers moving with precision. Your son tried to frame me for theft because I wouldn't pay for his college. And you're calling me ungrateful. You're the thief who stole money from your own child to run off with some stranger you met online. At least I earned my money honestly. She blocked me immediately. Later that day, I showed the conversation to my aunt when I visited her. She shook her head, disbelief written all over her face. I can't believe she had the nerve to contact you after everything her son did. She's just like the rest of them. I said quietly. They think the world owes them something. Are you okay with how everything turned out? My aunt asked, her hand resting gently on mine. I thought about it for a moment. Yeah, I am. I gave them a chance to be better, and they showed me exactly who they are. I'm better off without them. My aunt squeezed my hand. You are. You always have been. That night, I sat in my apartment, my beautiful apartment, the one I bought with my own hard work. And for the first time in a long while, I felt peace. The weight of family drama no longer loomed over me. I didn't have to wonder if they'd call asking for money or favors. I didn't have to carry around the anger and hurt from the past. I was free. I thought about my nephew, wondering if he would ever make something of himself. Part of me hoped he would, but not at my expense. He had a long road ahead of him, and I was done being a part of his story. Part of me still wonders if my nephew learned anything from his actions, but deep down, I mostly just hope he stays out of my life for good. It's been 3 months since I cut ties with my family, and I can honestly say these have been the most peaceful months I've had in years. No drama, no guilt trips, no surprise calls asking for money or favors. I've been diving into my work more than ever. The company I work for recently secured a massive deal with a tech giant, and I'm leading the development of their new security system. The irony isn't lost on me. I'm designing technology to prevent the very kind of electronic break-ins my nephew used on my car. Just last week, my boss told me, I'm being considered for a promotion to senior software architect, along with a 30% raise. I've worked incredibly hard for this, and it feels amazing to finally be recognized for my skills, rather than being judged for what I'm unwilling to do for people who never once had my back. I've also been spending more time with my aunt. She's been a true mother figure to me, and I've come to realize just how much I appreciate having at least one person in my family who genuinely cares about me. We have dinner together every week, and she always asks how I'm doing. About my life, my happiness, not about what I can give to others. You look different, she said last Sunday during brunch. Lighter somehow. She was right, I feel lighter. It's as though I've been carrying a heavy load of guilt and obligation for years. And finally, I've been able to set it down. I've found myself thinking about my nephew a lot recently. Not with anger, but with pity. He's clearly smart, I'll give him that. Hacking car security systems isn't something just anyone can pull off. But he chose to use that talent to try to ruin someone's life instead of building his own future. I even did some digging online a few weeks ago. I found out he ended up enrolling at the state university near my parents' house. Not MIT, but it's a solid school with a good computer science program. My guess is he's relying on financial aid, since my parents certainly can't afford to pay for it. A part of me feels sorry for him not getting into his dream school. But then I remember what he did to me, and I remind myself that actions have consequences. I also heard from my aunt that Sarah returned. Apparently, her internet boyfriend dumped her after she ran out of money, and she showed up at my parents' house, broke and desperate. My aunt heard all the details from a neighbor who witnessed the whole scene. Of course, my parents took her back in. Sarah has always been the golden child, no matter what she does. She can steal from her own son, abandon him, blow through his college money on some random guy, and still get welcomed back with open arms. I used to be furious about the double standard. But now, I just feel sorry for all of them. They're stuck in a never-ending cycle of toxicity and can't seem to break free. My career has been going so well that I've started seriously considering starting my own consulting business. I've saved up enough money, built strong relationships in the industry, and I'm getting tired of working for others. I want to create something completely mine. I've been working on business plans in my free time. Cybersecurity for small businesses is a huge market, and after everything with my nephew, I'm more motivated than ever to help people protect themselves from digital threats. On a personal note, my dating life has been looking up as well. I met Marcus, a software engineer at a startup, at a tech conference last month. He's calm, steady, and I find his demeanor incredibly attractive. We've been out a few times, and he's a breath of fresh air compared to the chaos of my family. When I told him about cutting ties with my family, he didn't try to convince me to reconcile or tell me that family is everything. He simply said, "It must have been really hard, but it sounds like you made the best decision for yourself." That's when I knew I liked him. He gets it. He understands that sometimes walking away is the healthiest choice you can make. I've been sleeping better than I have in years, free from the anxiety of wondering what my family might want from me next. No more guilt about not being the perfect daughter, sister, or aunt. No more second guessing whether I should reach out or try to fix things. I'm done trying to fix problems that were never mine to solve. I often wonder if my nephew has learned anything from the consequences of his actions. I hope he has. I hope he understands that trying to bring others down won't build his success. I hope he focuses on his studies and makes something of his life. But mostly, I just hope he stays far away from me. I've also started therapy, not because I'm falling apart, but because I wanted to make sure I'm processing everything that happened in a healthy way. My therapist told me, "You show remarkable resilience and self-awareness. You've essentially raised yourself," she said. "You figured out how to be successful, how to set boundaries, how to protect yourself. And that's not easy when you don't have good role models." She's right, I've raised myself. I taught myself what healthy relationships look like, what boundaries are, and what I deserve from the people in my life. It took me 33 years to figure it out, but I finally did. And I'm proud of where I am. I'm proud of the apartment I bought with my own hard work. I'm proud of the career I built. I'm proud of the life I've created for myself. I'm proud that I walked away from toxicity instead of enabling it. I'm proud that I chose my own peace over their drama. Most of all, I'm proud that I broke the cycle. I'm not like them. I don't manipulate people. I don't take advantage of others. And I don't expect anyone to solve my problems. I take care of myself, I work hard, and I treat people with respect. That's the difference between me and my family. They take, I give. They blame, I take responsibility. They expect, I earn. I'm finally free from all of that. And I'm never going back. Looking ahead, I feel nothing but possibilities. My career is soaring. I'm building meaningful connections. I'm healthy, happy, and safe. I don't need their approval or presence in my life. I have everything I need, and I built it all myself. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new twist or inspiring journey. See you in the next video.